Descent into darkness. The alarms blared throughout the USS Horizon, their piercing wails drowning out Chief Engineer Nadia Volkov's frantic commands. The research vessel shuddered violently, thrown from the stability of its warp field by an unknown gravitational anomaly. On the bridge, Captain Marcus Davenport gripped his command chair as the ship lurched again, sending Lieutenant Chen Wei tumbling from his navigation station. Systems critical. Losing containment in the reactor core, Nadia's voice crackled over the comms. Her Russian accent thickened under stress, a tell that things were dire. Options, Lieutenant Ramon. Davenport shouted over the cacophony of emergency alerts. Security Chief Imran Rahman steadied himself against a console, his dark eyes scanning the tactical display. We're being pulled into the gravity well of an uncharted planet, sir. Sensors detect a breathable atmosphere, but... He hesitated, there's something else. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Landing protocols, now. Davenport ordered. Dr. Okafor, secure the laboratory specimens. Wei, find us somewhere to set this bird down before she tears herself apart. Dr. Neka Okafor, the expedition's exobiologist, was already racing toward the science bay, her tall frame moving with purpose despite the ship's violent tremors. The six-person crew had been on a routine survey mission when their sensors detected unusual radiation patterns from this unexplored sector. Now, they were fighting for their lives. The horizon screamed through the atmosphere, metal groaning in protest as Lieutenant Wei fought for control. The landscape below was alien in every sense, vast forests of twisted purple vegetation beneath a crimson sky, mountain ranges of obsidian glass, and sprawling structures that could only be artificial. Civilization, breathed Communications Officer Darius Park, his fingers flying across his station. Attempting contact on all frequencies. The ship's descent became a plummet. The last thing Captain Davenport saw before impact was a formation of sleek, metallic objects rising from the surface, moving with deliberate precision toward the falling vessel. Then darkness. Captain Davenport awoke to the taste of blood and the sound of dripping water. His head throbbed mercilessly as consciousness returned in painful fragments. Cold stone pressed against his back, and when he tried to move, the rattle of chains confirmed what his body already knew, he was bound. Marcus, a hoarse whisper came from nearby. Marcus, are you with us? His vision cleared enough to make out Neka's face, a gash across her forehead crusted with dried blood. She too was chained to the wall of what appeared to be a dungeon carved from solid rock. As his eyes adjusted to the dim, purple-tinged light, he could make out the others, Nadia, Imran, Jen, and Darius, all similarly restrained, all bearing injuries from the crash. Status report, he managed, his captain's instincts kicking in despite their dire situation. Ship's gone, Nadia said flatly. Saw them tear it apart before they took us. They? Davenport asked, though he already knew. The locals, Imran replied, testing his restraints for weakness. Humanoid, but definitely not human. 7 feet tall at least, exoskeletons like polished chrome. They've got technology that makes ours look primitive. They took our equipment, our weapons, Jen added. And they put these on us. He nodded toward his neck, where a sleek, metallic collar sat flush against his skin. Davenport realized he wore one too, all of them did. The device hummed with quiet energy, occasionally emitting a soft pulse that sent tingles down his spine. Neural inhibitors, I think, Neka said, confirming his suspicions. I tried to resist during transport. The pain was instructive. A sound like metal sliding against stone silenced their conversation. The cell door opened, revealing 3 of the aliens Imran had described. They moved with unnerving grace, their reflective exoskeletons catching the light. Where faces should have been, smooth, featureless helmets curved around their elongated heads. The tallest stepped forward, helmet retracting to reveal features that were disturbingly human-like yet wrong, skin the color of burnished silver, eyes like liquid mercury, no visible nose, and a mouth full of gleaming, needle-like teeth. You trespass, it said, the words emerging as perfect English despite the alien's mouth barely moving. This world of Zarkaresh belongs to the Voidborn. You are the property of Sovereign Vexthor now. Davenport struggled to his feet, chains clinking. We meant no intrusion. Our ship was damaged. We can contact our government. The alien moved with blinding speed, a hand shooting out to grip Davenport's throat. Its strength was terrifying, lifting him effortlessly until his feet dangled above the ground. Your kind has been studied. Primitive. Destructive. Valuable only as entertainment. The alien released him, and Davenport collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. Tomorrow, you join the games, the alien continued. Survive, and you earn another day. Fail, and you feed the beasts. Its mercury eyes swept over the crew. The Sovereign enjoys watching lesser species fight for their lives. It reveals their true nature. As suddenly as they had appeared, the aliens departed, the door sealing behind them with finality. Games? Darius whispered into the ensuing silence. What games? Imran's expression darkened. I saw arena-like structures from the air before we crashed. And pits. Large ones. Silence fell over the group as the implications sank in. They were captives on an alien world, destined for some form of gladiatorial combat for the amusement of their captors. Through the night, they shared what little they knew, assessing injuries and discussing the Voidborn. Neka, ever the scientist, noted the biological impossibility of their appearance. The combination of exoskeleton and seemingly mammalian features suggested either convergent evolution beyond probability or artificial modification. Morning, if it could be called that on a world with a perpetually crimson sky, arrived with the return of their captors. The chains were removed, but the collars remained. They were marched through winding corridors of polished stone, deeper into what appeared to be a massive underground complex. The tunnel eventually opened onto a breathtaking and horrifying sight, an enormous coliseum. It stands filled with thousands of the chrome-skinned Voidborn. Their silver eyes tracked the humans' entrance, a collective hum of anticipation rising from the crowd. Listen to me, Davenport whispered urgently as they were led to the center of the arena. Whatever happens, stay together. We protect each other. We survive. A booming voice echoed throughout the Colosseum, the translator in their collars converting it to English. Sovereign Vexthor honors us with his presence for this demonstration of inferior species. Watch as these new specimens face the devourer of worlds. The far end of the arena opened, and something massive stirred in the shadows. Back to back, Imran ordered, the security chief taking charge of their defense. Circle formation, now. They formed a tight ring as a creature emerged that defied comprehension, a writhing mass of tentacles and teeth, its hide a patchwork of scales and chitin. 8 glowing eyes fixed on the humans with predatory intent. Davenport felt a primal fear grip his spine, but he forced it down. We are Starfleet, he reminded his crew, though they wore no insignia here. We've faced worse and survived. We will not die today. The creature charged, its speed belying its enormous size, and the humans braced themselves. As the alien crowd roared its approval, Captain Davenport made a silent promise to his crew, they would find a way off this world, or die trying. But first, they had to survive the devourer of world. Forging freedom. The devourer of worlds charged with terrifying speed, its mass of tentacles lashing out like living whips. Imran pushed Darius aside as a barbed appendage slashed through the air where he'd stood moments before. Captain Davenport rolled beneath another attack, his military training kicking in despite years behind a command chair. Spread out, he shouted. Make it divide its attention. The creature pivoted with unnatural grace, focusing 8 glowing eyes on Nadia as she darted toward a pile of debris. A tentacle wrapped around her ankle, yanking her off her feet. She screamed, more enraged than fear, clawing at the arena floor as it dragged her toward its maw. Jeanne seized a jagged piece of metal from the ground and drove it into the tentacle. Ichor, the color of oil, sprayed across the sand as the creature recoiled, releasing Nadia. She scrambled away, breathing heavily. Its eyes, Neka called out, observing even in mortal danger. Their photosensitive organs, they react when shadows pass over them. Davenport understood immediately. Blind it. Working as one, the crew used what little they had, sand, debris, their own bodies, to distract and confuse the monster. Darius managed to climb onto its back, balancing precariously before driving a shard of bone into one of its glowing orbs. The creature's roar shook the very walls of the arena. Imran had found a severed limb from a previous combatant, using it as a makeshift spear. When the devourer lunged at Neka, he drove the weapon deep into another eye. The beast thrashed wildly, knocking Darius to the ground with bone-crushing force. Darius! Nadia screamed, rushing to his side. Blood trickled from his mouth, but he was conscious, clutching his ribs. The void-born audience had fallen silent, their mercury eyes watching with clinical fascination as the humans displayed unexpected coordination. In his ornate viewing box, Sovereign Vexthor leaned forward, taloned fingers steepled beneath his chin. With 4 of its eyes ruined, the devourer became more erratic, more desperate. It charged blindly, crashing into the arena wall with enough force to crack the stone. The impact stunned it momentarily. Now! Davenport shouted. Everyone, together. They converged on the creature, using every weapon they'd scavenged. Imran drove his spear deep into its throat. Nadia and Jin attacked its remaining eyes. Neka, having discovered a vulnerable point where segments of its exoskeleton met, plunged a metal shard into the gap. The creature convulsed, its tentacles flailing in its death throes before it finally collapsed. Silence filled the arena. Then, unexpectedly, a rhythmic tapping began. Sovereign Vexthor himself was striking a clawed hand against the railing of his box. The sound spread until the entire Colosseum resonated with it, not applause, but acknowledgement. The same booming voice announced, "The specimens show unexpected cunning. They will return tomorrow to face greater challenges." As guards surrounded them to return them to their cell, Davenport caught the gaze of Vexthor. There was something in those mercury eyes that hadn't been there before, curiosity, perhaps even respect. Back in their prison, they tended to Darius's injuries. 3 ribs broken, but thankfully no signs of internal bleeding. The Voidborn had provided primitive medical supplies, evidence they wanted their entertainment to last. "We can't keep doing this," Jin said, slumping against the wall. "Sooner or later, they'll throw something at us we can't beat." "I've been studying these collars," Nadia whispered, her engineer's mind never resting. "They're sophisticated, but not impenetrable. The mechanism relies on bioelectric feedback. If we could create a localized electromagnetic pulse." "With what?" Imran asked skeptically. "They've taken everything." "Not everything," Neka interjected. She reached into her boot, withdrawing a small, crystalline object. "My sample container. They overlooked it during processing." Davenport recognized it immediately, a specialized container designed to preserve exotic biological specimens, lined with a composite material that could, in theory, be repurposed. "It's not enough for all of us," Nadia said after examining it. "Maybe 1 collar. Then we focus on one," Davenport decided. "We disable 1 collar, that person creates a distraction, and the rest of us make our move during transport to the arena." "We need more than that," Imran argued. "We need allies." As if summoned by his words, a soft scraping came from the wall behind them. They fell silent, watching as a section of stone shifted, revealing a narrow passage. A figure emerged, not a Voidborn, but something else entirely. Hunched and gaunt, with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water, it regarded them with multifaceted eyes. "Others who fight," it whispered in halting English, clearly processed through a device similar to their translation collars. "Krelka offers alliance. Many prisoners wish freedom. Many die trying. Davenport stepped forward cautiously. Who are you? What species? Krelka is Luminari. Once traders, now slaves, like you. 3 cycles here. The creature extended a 6-fingered hand, showing a collar identical to theirs, though worn and scratched. Voidborn take many worlds, many peoples. All fight in pits. All die eventually. Not us, Davenport said firmly. We have a plan to disable the collars. Krelka's skin flashed with colors, excitement, perhaps. Others tried. Failed. Punishment, terrible. We're different, Nadia said, holding up the crystal container. We have this. The alien studied it, head tilting. Krelka knows where more materials found. Workshop where arena weapons made. Guards there few. A plan began to take shape. Krelka would guide Nadia through the secret passages to the workshop, where she could gather what she needed for the EMP device. Meanwhile, the others would create a distraction during the next day's games. The hours that followed were tense with preparation. Krelka revealed that the Luminari were natural tunnelers, having spent generations building a hidden network beneath the Voidborn complex. Other captive species had joined their silent resistance, the insectoid Xerix, the crystalline Voth, even a few rogue Voidborn who opposed Vextor's regime. Why haven't you escaped already? Darius asked, still nursing his injuries. Nowhere to go, Krelka answered simply. No ships. No weapons against Voidborn tech. Need, new approach. The alien's gaze fixed on Davenport. Your arrival changes much. Your technology, your methods, new. Dawn brought the guards once more. This time, the crew moved with hidden purpose, each knowing their role. In the arena, they faced not one but 3 beasts, smaller than the Devourer but faster, with razor-sharp claws and powerful jaws. As they fought, Davenport positioned himself near Vextor's viewing box, drawing the Sovereign's attention deliberately. When the moment was right, he called out, "Is this how a great ruler proves his power? By watching slaves fight your pets. Face me yourself, if you have the courage." A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Such defiance was unheard of. Vextor rose slowly, his mercury eyes narrowing. Meanwhile, Nadia had slipped away during transport, guided by Krelka through hidden passages to the workshop. Working feverishly, she assembled the crude but effective EMP device. It would only work once, and at close range, but it was their only chance. The rebellion began at midnight. The EMP disabled Imran's collar first, allowing him to remove it entirely. He then freed the others. Throughout the complex, other prisoners rose up, led by the Luminari and their allies. Chaos erupted as cell blocks were opened, guards overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Davenport led his crew toward the surface, fighting their way through waves of Voidborn soldiers. NECA had discovered a weakness in their exoskeletons, a small gap at the base of the spine where a precise strike could immobilize them temporarily. They reached the landing bay where various alien vessels were docked. Nadia, with Jean's help, quickly identified one they could operate, a sleek scout ship with intuitive controls. As they prepared for departure, a familiar voice echoed through the bay, "Impressive, 4 primitives." Sovereign Vextor stood before them, flanked by his elite guards. Unlike the others, he wore no exoskeleton, revealing his true form, less humanoid than they'd thought, with 4 arms and sinuous, almost liquid movements. "You believe yourself special," he hissed. "Many have fought in my arena. Many have died. Some earned respect." His mercury eyes fixed on Davenport. "You have earned mine." "We don't want your respect," Davenport replied coldly. "We want our freedom." Vextor's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. "Freedom is earned, Captain. You have earned yours, if you can take it." Without warning, he attacked, moving with blinding speed. Imran intercepted, using the combat techniques he'd perfected in the arena. The others engaged the guards, fighting with a coordination born of shared survival. Darius, despite his injuries, reached the ship's controls, initiating launch protocols. Nadia worked frantically to override the bay doors, while Neka and Jin held back the reinforcements that had begun pouring in. Imran was losing against Vexthor, the sovereign's multiple limbs giving him an insurmountable advantage. As he fell, Davenport took his place, facing the alien ruler with grim determination. "Your species intrigues me," Vexthor said as they circled each other. "So fragile, yet so resilient. Perhaps you would have made better allies than entertainment." "It's not too late to find out," Davenport replied, surprising himself with the offer. Vexthor paused, genuinely contemplating. In that moment of hesitation, Imran, not as incapacitated as he'd appeared, struck from behind with a void-born weapon. The energy blast knocked Vexthor forward, directly into Davenport's waiting attack. The ship's engines roared to life. "Captain, now!" Nadia shouted from the ramp. Davenport looked down at the wounded sovereign. "Remember this day. Remember that humans choose freedom, always." He raced aboard as the bay doors began to open. The ship shot into the crimson sky, pursued by void-born vessels. But Nadia had studied their technology well enough to evade them, slipping into the upper atmosphere and then into space. As the alien world shrank behind them, the crew gathered on the bridge, bloodied but unbowed. The ship's sensors detected a familiar signal, a Federation emergency beacon. "We're not alone out here," Jin said, wonder in his voice. "There's an outpost within range." Davenport nodded, feeling the weight of leadership easing slightly. "Set course. And prepare a full report." "About the Voidborn?" Neka asked. "About everything. Their technology, their society, their conquered worlds." His expression hardened. "Earth needs to know what's out here. We're not ready for this level of threat." As the ship accelerated toward the distant beacon, Davenport looked at his crew, no longer just colleagues, but family forged in the crucible of survival. They had escaped the chains of an alien world, but they carried with them a burden of knowledge. The galaxy was more dangerous than humanity had ever imagined, and they would need to prepare. But they had proven something essential on that brutal world: when all else was stripped away, when humans had no one but each other, they could overcome anything. Even the Voidborn would learn that lesson eventually.